So here's something worth sitting with. If you are a couple bringing in around $90,000 in retirement income and living in a state like Minnesota, you could actually be writing a check to the state every single year for somewhere between $3,500 and $5,000 in state income tax alone. Here in South Dakota, the state income tax bill is actually zero. Now that's not a reduced rate, not a retirement exemption with a bunch of the fine print. Zero state income tax on retirement income. I'm Julie Roth, and I track what's actually happening here in the Sioux Falls, South Dakota real estate market month over month. And I want to show you what the tax advantage looks like when you put it next to real home prices right here, right now. All right, let's start with taxes because this is really the foundation of the conversation today. South Dakota has no state income tax. That includes retirement income. So whether you're living on Social Security, pension income, retirement account withdrawals, investment income, or a combination of all of it, South Dakota does not take a state income tax cut of all that money. Now, a household earning around $175,000 a year in retirement income could save approximately $12,500 each and every year by retiring in South Dakota instead of one of the states that collect state income tax. Now think about what an extra $12,500 a year could actually mean for you and your life. Maybe that's more travel. Maybe it's helping your kids and your grandkids. Maybe you give them a college fund. Maybe that means more flexibility for healthcare, hobbies, home updates, or simply having more room in your monthly budget to do the things that you love. And here's the part I think that gets really interesting. According to the same research, if you invested that $12,500 of annual savings at a 6% return over 20 years, it could create an additional $183,000 in compounded wealth on top of what you've already contributed. And I know taxes are not the only reason to move somewhere. You still need to love the community, the lifestyle, the people, and what your everyday life could look like. And I believe you could maybe find that here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Now I know there's probably one thing on your mind after hearing all that. What does it actually cost to live here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota? Because tax savings are one thing, but what does the housing side of the equation actually look like here? According to the research, housing in South Dakota is generally around 18 to 25% below the national average. The statewide median home value falls somewhere between about $315,000 to $323,000. So compared to somewhere like Minneapolis, housing in South Dakota is estimated to be about 40% less expensive. Compared to Des Moines, Iowa, which many people already think is fairly affordable, it is estimated to be about 35% less expensive. Those are broad research figures, so now let's talk about what we're actually seeing here in the Sioux Falls, South Dakota market. In June of 2026, the median sale price across the Sioux Falls market was around $376,000. A year ago, it was $337,000. Now that's comparing June to June, so it might be a little bit skewed, but yes, prices have definitely moved up and Sioux Falls is growing like crazy. Demand is still strong here and we are not immune to the rising home values we're seeing across the country. But here's the context I think that matters. The average price per square foot was $192 in June compared to $190 a year ago. Medium home size here was almost 2,000 square feet. So while the overall median price is up, buyers are still getting meaningful square footage for their money. Property taxes here are another piece of the equation to talk about. Research actually puts average South Dakota property taxes around $2,940 per year, compared to what a national median would be, which is closer to $3,200 range. Not a big difference, but you're paying that every single year. But compared to many other parts of the country, South Dakota can really offer a manageable cost of living without giving up access to good healthcare, restaurants, shopping, entertainment, and an active community for our retirees. And as you're watching this, make sure you grab our free Sioux Falls area neighborhood guide in the description. Our guide breaks down the Sioux Falls area and surrounding communities so that you can start to get a real feel for what might be a best fit for you and your next phase of life. Okay, so now that the financial case makes sense, What does it actually look like in the Sioux Falls housing market? And what does it feel like moving here right now? Recently, I actually had the pleasure of helping a couple that was relocating from the Kansas City area to Sioux Falls. And when we were discussing the move, one of the main reasons that they had decided Sioux Falls was the taxes, which we've talked about, affordability, and then also just how safe our community is here in Sioux Falls. They looked at crime rates versus some other locations, and then they also said that there's just this Midwest nice charm here. We were able to find them a really nice townhouse on the northeast side of Sioux Falls, and I've touched base with them a few times since moving in, and they could not be happier. They love their neighborhood. They love what's going on with their taxes and how much money they get to keep in their pocket. And it's been a really great experience. As of June 2026, Sioux Falls had about 3.3 months of inventory. That's still leaning towards a bit of a seller's market. There are homes available, but it's not a market where you have unlimited options or unlimited time when a great home comes up. There is some urgency, but it's definitely different from price range to price range. So the homes here are moving, but this is not the frantic, everything sells in a week market that we saw a few years back. Buyers do have a little more room than they did last year and some negotiating power. So looking at the most recent 90 days, homes were selling for about 2.1% below asking price on average. Now that doesn't mean every seller is ready to negotiate, especially on well-priced homes in great conditions and great locations. But it does mean that buyers here have a little more opportunity depending on the home, the price point, the condition, and how long it's actually been on the market. I'm also watching closely the failure rate we're seeing here in Sioux Falls, which is simply the percentage of homes that come to the market but then don't end up selling. That number actually moved from 6.6% a year ago to 8.9% this June. Now let's look at Harrisburg. Now I'm a little partial to Harrisburg because I actually live just outside, and it's a great opportunity to be close to Sioux Falls, but in a smaller town. So in June, the median sale price here in Harrisburg was around $376,000, and homes were selling for about $195 a square foot. Inventory was about 2.4 months, and median days on market here were 61 days. Homes were selling at about 99.3 of the asking price, so that tells me Harrisburg is still a little more competitive than parts of Sioux Falls. You have newer neighborhoods here that continued community growth, schools that bring a lot of families to the area, and easy access to Sioux Falls. At around $376,000, buyers may find more square footage or a newer home than they could in the market they're leaving behind, like in Minnesota or Iowa or whatever state you're in. And because homes are still selling very close to asking price here, I would focus less on trying to negotiate every last dollar and more on making sure that you're buying the right home at the number that works for you and your long-term plan. That matters more than winning the negotiation sometimes. Let's shift over to the area of T. In June, the median sales price in T was around $385,000. Homes there were selling for about $195 per square foot, so very similar to Harrisburg, and inventory was around 2.4 months, and median days on market is around 63. So on paper, T and Harrisburg are very similar, but the difference is that T homes sold at about 98.8% of list price compared to Harrisburg at 99.3%. Now that's not really a huge difference, but it can suggest that T buyers might have just a little bit more room to negotiate in the right situation. And this is very price point specific because the lower end price range in T is super hot. So it depends. At around $385,000, T can be a strong option for buyers who are looking for more square footage, newer homes, or a smaller community feel outside of Sioux Falls. They still have great access to the interstate and anywhere in the Sioux Falls area. And for someone bringing equity from maybe a higher cost market, selling their home there, that equity can definitely go a lot further here. So the key is not to look at Sioux Falls, Harrisburg, and T as one big market. Each area is going to have its own inventory, pace, pricing, and opportunities. And that's why it's so important to look at the specific home you're considering, not just a big, broad market headline, because Sioux Falls is definitely different anywhere you go. Here's where we are. South Dakota keeps showing up near the top of retirement rankings, for a reason. Wallet Hub ranks South Dakota number 3 of the best states to retire to in 2026. Seniorly ranked South Dakota number 6 in 2025. US News ranks Sioux Falls number 16 out of more than 850 cities for retirement, which seems shocking for little old South Dakota. So for someone deciding between a more accessible entry point in Sioux Falls around $270,000 or a move to the suburbs, Harrisburg or T in that $376,000 range, the decision is not just about square footage. It's definitely more about what you want your day-to-day life to look like. So if you're selling one home and buying the next, the market rewards all of the preparation you're doing already just by watching this video. You want to know your numbers before you're in the middle of the move. Know what your home is likely to sell for. Know what the payment that will feel comfortable for you once you retire here. And know what community actually fits the life that you want to build. Now, I'm happy to jump on a call and go through all of these questions with you, or if you want to shoot me a message, I'm always here to help. So the biggest thing I want you to take away from this whole video is that South Dakota's retirement advantage is not just ranking or headline. It's more about what your money can actually do for you here in Sioux Falls. Once you decide Sioux Falls or the surrounding areas could be a fit, the next question usually is, should we buy an existing home, or maybe we should look to build? The incentives, the timelines, negotiation opportunities, and things you need to watch for can look completely different from an existing home or new construction. So check out this next video. I break down what buyers often miss in the new construction world, the timing, the negotiation, the strategies, and what options may make the most sense for your move. And before you click over, make sure you grab that Sioux Falls area neighborhood guide in the description below. Thanks for taking a look at this video, and I hope to see you in the next one.